Royalty in Real Life podcast. This is All Hail the Queen. Tune in and subscribe to me on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and iHeartRadio. Identify as royalty. Identify as the royalty that you truly are. Identify as the royalty that you want to be. Not to call anybody a wannabe. Anybody to identify as something, holding on to things and identifying with something for the sake of believing in something greater than yourself, greater than the circumstance or situation that you might be experiencing or dealing with. Like there's always a hope that somebody has to say that, okay, I identify with this. This is beautiful. This is something beautiful. I want to be as beautiful as this beautiful pink crystal rock. So I'm going to hold on to this and say that this is my identity, whatever. If nothing else, just believe in the fact that God has identified you as royalty. So in that fact, be empowered with that. But I understand some of us believe in rocks and we don't believe in God. Whatever anybody's belief is, the fact is whoever you identify yourself to be strong in that and make sure that that is exactly as you see it to be in the mirror and everywhere else in life. You should definitely be reflecting yourself and your truth in the mirror, in life. Everything that you experience, all of your experiences has to rise to that expectation. Right. And that's pretty high of an expectation. I understand we're living in a day and age where everybody's like, all these women out here, all these females out here, all these girls out here, they're just, they have these ridiculously high, unrealistic expectations. And that's why there's so many of them single and so many of them, such as myself, that are cougars or at an age where nobody else wants us, et cetera, et cetera. That's more so in like the dating world, I think. But I think like just overall, a general sense of identity is something that not everybody has. Like, it's just not equal. Some folks would say that they're nothing and nobody and they're all right with that. But identifying as royalty is not a crime, right? But they crucified Jesus for that, right? They crucified Jesus for Jesus thinking that he was anybody special. Understand that if you do have a sense of identity, a sense of self, that might be something that other people disagree with. It's fine. That's fine. Just let everybody identify as themselves and you identify as yourself. And for you to identify as royalty is speaking volumes. And I believe in having this mentality just changes things. It'll change anybody's life. It'll change the situation, the circumstances. For me to say that I am more than this means that I have the confidence, one, the mentality, just the ambition to be more than whatever it is that I'm dealing with. That's incredibly powerful. That's a strength that can really go a long way. And that could change like anybody's situation. Like right now, the moment that anyone says I am royalty, it'll just change something within that moment. It might change like the font on your resume, the perspective that you might have had yesterday. You have a new perspective today. You have a new perspective for tomorrow and the future. And it's just a beautiful perspective to have. I know that there are a lot of people out there that are experiencing identity crisis. People that are identifying as their occupation or their place of employment as their identity, and that's not their identity. That's a role that somebody has to take on. That's a position that they have to fulfill, et cetera, et cetera. But is that who they are? Upstanding citizens of the world out in public in their place of employment, there's suddenly somebody different and behind closed doors and in the dark room somewhere doing something else, or they're exposed for the secret life of whoever. And I'm just all about identity in the sense that I'm the same person in the day as I am in the night, and I am very, very proud of myself in that fact. And I do have kind of multiple identities. I do have, I do this, I do this, I do this, right? But overall, I kind of believe in myself a little bit. I am insecure, also, but I feel like that's normal. That's normal, right? It's not normal to say that I'm a unicorn, right? But if I want to identify as a unicorn, I can identify as a unicorn. And there are so many ways that I can kind of make this the truth, right? I can color my hair, I can put a horn on my head, and I can just say that, see, this is what makes me a unicorn. I just identify as, I'm All Hail the Queen. I believe that it's not a coincidence that my name is Hell and it somehow just is All Hail the Queen. It's just beautiful. And I know that is kind of cringy, like, oh my gosh, like All Hail the Queen, like, the Hellfire, the Hellcats, like the hot as hell, etc. So there's so many ways that my name just versatilely powerful. Like it's just powerful in so many ways, and I can put my name in anywhere, and it'll just be exactly what it is, and it's it has a lot of meaning. And if I think of it that way all the time, and let me be honest, on the days that I'm insecure or, experiencing, just really down and out about myself and my life, I don't always feel that way. So it's just necessary for me to highlight that to myself and to say that this is a true fact. And it's something that I feel like is calling me. Like it's not something that I'm saying that I wish I was a unicorn. It's like being born a unicorn and understanding that there's meaning with this and I have to do something with this. I can't just like sit on this or just be so casual about my truth and my identity. Like there's a lot of responsibility that I feel. I know that seems weird because it's like for real in real life, like who really am I, right? Like what have I accomplished, what have I achieved, like how am I successful, how am I this almighty all hail the queen in my identity, like in real life, right? And so that's kind of what brings me to royalty in real life, right? Because why is there such an emphasis on who somebody is in real life as opposed to who they pretend to be or act like they are anywhere else? It's because there is an identity crisis happening in the world. There are girls that transitioned into boys and boys that transitioned into girls, and they're regretting that. They want to go back. They want to turn back the hands of time. They want to kind of undo the surgery that happened because they're sorry for the confusion. That's unfortunate and that's sad because there's a lot of pain that you can't unlive the pain. You can't undo what's already been done in a lot of cases. So it's like it's best to know who you are and to be sure of yourself, like from the time of birth. But that's not easy because there's so much that happens in the world that changes and alters things. But just clarifying that sooner rather than later, I think, is a great idea. And if anybody is in a position, a situation, a relationship, a job that they don't like, a marriage, being stuck in a marriage, being stuck in a situation that they're just not comfortable or happy with, you have to really ask yourself, like, who are you? Are you this person? Are you okay with this? And if you're not okay with it, you really need to ask yourself some questions the same way that I do. What do I want? Where do I want to go? Who am I? Et cetera, et cetera. It's like a midlife crisis of sorts, right? At this age that I'm at. And that's okay. It's okay if if I'm asking myself those questions at 40. It's fine because I understand that my life is not like everybody else's life. It's not, I'm different. That's just the way I've always been. And that's okay. And I have to really explore, I have to experience, and I have to be able to arrive at this position of power that I see myself to be in. There's a lot of power that I feel that I have, and I know that there's opposing viewpoint that says if you're so powerful, then why are you always talking about? I'm always kind of not crying out loud, but I am kind of on YouTube talking about my situation. And it's like if I was this almighty, all hail the queen powerful, then why isn't the situation changed after 10 years of all of this crying and complaining? And I think that I personally, like, I'm just a human being also, I'm just a human being. I can only do so much, but I understand the value of my voice, the value of my experience, the value that I have with myself and my identity will make a difference. There are a lot of differences that I can say that were existing previously that don't exist anymore. There are things that are happening now that wasn't happening before. There are differences that I feel like will matter and will change, like the course of how things have been. And the course of nature is something that I wouldn't play with myself. I would not play with the course of nature. I would not play with like the destiny that is associated and affiliated with my name. I do believe in that I have a destiny, but I'm not trying to convince anybody that I have a destiny. This is like it's just strong inside of me, and I just believe, oh my God, there's something happening with me, and I can't even really explain it. This is a fact. It's something that's real. It'll become more and more evident, with time. And time is of the essence. So I am creating this message to say, especially the youth, young life, my daughter especially, I just want her to be in her truth and in her life to really identify herself. If I am the queen, she's obviously the princess, duh, right? And we're royalty in real life. And this is something that I always speak to her and remind her of, just a young mind developing and growing. I have experienced a lot of trauma. I think trauma really stunts our growth in a lot of ways. I think it's affected me mentally and emotionally in a lot of ways. The amount of time that I've invested in myself and my health overall, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, is made a significant difference, I feel like, in my life. And I feel like the sooner the better with that, right? So just because it's been like 10x years of whatever had happened before, all of that is changing slowly but surely over time with the truth that I am living, with me just being more empowered in myself and my identity. I did experience a lot of things that could have been prevented, et cetera, had I known better. And now that I do know better, I expect that my daughter knows better and that she doesn't have to experience or endure anything that I experienced. So it's very general, this message. I feel like it could really, it might even go against like the agenda or um, like the intention that the enemy has. Anybody in the way of our destiny and the natural course of nature is an enemy, period. Like anybody in the way is an interference. If they're not helping, they're a hindrance. And if they're a hindrance, then that means that they're in the way of something that is truly great. And they should never do that. They're like wishing death upon themselves, seriously, because they're in the way of something that's greater than them. This position that I'm in and the power that I have and the intention that is set with me in my life and my future is bigger than me. It's so much more than I could ever, as a little old like human being, that I could ever say, like that I could ever be like, oh, I'm so much more than this. Like, and I could literally be nothing more than, a fat ass on the couch. I don't know what I look like to anybody else. Like, I don't know what I look like to anybody else, but I could literally think of myself a lot less rather than thinking of myself as more. And wouldn't anybody choose to be more? Wouldn't you choose to be more than? Like, I choose to be more than. Like, every day we wake up, we have a choice. We can live or we can die, and I choose to live. So when I choose to live, I choose to live in my life and my truth. And I believe in the destiny that I have is something that even I don't really fully understand, but that I trust in, that like it's a real serious thing. And anybody in the way of my daughter's destiny seriously has a death wish. And I know that there's a lot of sick people out there where they literally have a death wish. Like they want to die, they wish to die, they hope to die. They're hoping that somebody shows up and put them out of their misery. And unfortunately for them, I'm not the one to do that. I guess maybe I look like the one to do that, but I'm not volunteering. If God puts it on my heart and my soul to say, you're the one to do the job, I would do it, but that's just literally not my job. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be the one to put them out of their misery. But I can say that they're digging a hole, they're going to fall into it. That's what the enemy does. There's a false narrative out there, and this is also what brings me to really talking about identity, is there's a false narrative out there about me, and I'm just like, where is it? Do they see what they're saying? Yeah, I do experience depression. Yeah, I do have anxiety. Yeah, there's a diagnosis that I'm living with, et cetera, et cetera. I've learned to appreciate things as spiritual gifts, and that's really changed my perspective on myself. Because imagine if I really sat around thinking, maybe I am this. They're gaslighting and telling me that I'm crazy. So maybe imagine if I really thought that about myself. Where would I be? What would that look like? Would that look like this? Would that look like this? I don't believe that that's what that would look like. I look like somebody that has a little bit of confidence. I look like somebody that has a little bit of um, courage and bravery and all of those things. I look like somebody that actually maybe thinks a little bit highly of themselves, right? Or what the mental health refers to as grandiosity. I'm not like this grandiose person. I understand that I'm human. I'm very humble in that fact that I am a human being. I piss and shit like everybody else. That doesn't mean that I have to sit around and be the person that they're trying to run the false narrative about, that I'm just like this crazy, delusional, lonely cat lady or whatever. And I know that they're saying a lot more about me than that. I'll discuss more about what that false narrative is. I just understand that I'm not going to prove them wrong. That's not my job either. I'm just going to live my truth, and that's really easy for me to do. It's really easy for me to live my truth and to be in my truth and to express myself in a very truthful manner. All I've ever knew how to do was to be myself. I never knew how to be anybody else. So I think that's kind of an advantage that I have that they don't. These people are literally out here playing characters. They're playing characters, they're playing pretend, and they're sick. But they're the ones that are delusional and they're trying to run the false narrative. And I'm just like, at every opportunity, I want to be like, no, it looks like they were wrong and I was right the whole time. It's not really to prove them wrong. It's just to say that they cannot convince me. They cannot convince me of the woman that I am, the queen that I am. They cannot convince me that I'm not that, because they love to disagree and say that I'm not a queen, that I'm not a woman, that I guess I look like some dumb bitch over here. And I might be that. I might be the dumb bitch. At least I'm a sexy dumb bitch, like, I don't know. They can't ever say anything to me that would ever be like for me to question myself in my life. I feel like the confidence that I have in my identity is just it's inside of me. It's inside of me, and they could never convince me otherwise. No matter how many people that they try to gather up, that they try to conjure up all of these lies with, because there is a lot of strength in numbers, and that's what's really inspired me to create my podcast, to launch it on multiple platforms, so that I am heard, so that I am seen, so that my identity is never confused with somebody else's false narrative. Whether anybody disagrees or agrees, that's fine. I just believe that I do have a meaning with my name. I am someone. I do identify as someone. Like, I'm supposed to be someone, because they had wished death upon me so many times. There were so many times in my life where it's like, okay, I could have died there. I was seriously supposed to die there. Like, I mean, literally dying, but also like dying when somebody's just a shell of themselves. Like, they died, but they're just still kind of lingering around the earth, etc. Zombies, etc. There's so many cases upon cases of those types. You know what I mean? I have a pulse. Like, I am breathing. I'm living. I have a message. I have a voice. I have a little bit of looks about myself. I have so much going on with me. I don't have 9 lives, but I just feel like there's just too much life in me. There's too much life in me for me to die today. So I can't die today. I have to live, and I have to really present myself with my truth and with my identity. This is truly inspired with me in my position as a mother, the power that I have as her mother to speak this life to her, to make sure that she wakes up every day with intention to live her truth, and that she's never confused. She's never confused, because there's a lot of confusion that's happening out there in the world. Parents are kind of speaking up against the government, how the government's trying to like brainwash, trying to take over their children, etc., and tell their children who they are and just take away the power from the parents, etc. There's a lot of talk of that going on in the news, where people are feeling like they're losing control over their kids, etc., and their kids are like being sacrificed to some other hidden agenda that the government has of just truly just like changing who their kids are. That's something that I've been kind of speaking up and out against for 10x years, like the court corruption, etc., etc. I'll discuss more of that. All of that has only brought me more into my truth, more into the position that I have, and like the power that I have to make a difference, to change things. And I'm just one person. Strength in numbers. So I just feel like even as one woman, as one mother, like, I can make so much more of a difference than they could ever make all put together. Like, they can all gather up and rally up and try to make all the noise that they want to, and all I'm going to do is just live in my truth, and that's just going to be so superior over everybody else that's trying to lie. The battle that I have is so multi-layered. How I felt like I was losing control as a mother, how I felt like I was being taken advantage of, and I thought that over time, and especially with my age, I was thinking, well, maybe because I'm older, I have no idea what made me think this, but I was thinking that now that I'm older, maybe like it'll all, like, all of the drama with the lies that I was dealing with before, maybe all of that will die down a little bit. Obviously, it's like getting worse. So many more people that it's affecting everywhere, where people are feeling like they don't have control. If I was to get into an alliance of any sort, I would definitely get into an alliance with those that are not confused, not lost. Get into alliance with those that are really pushing the message that I am, and that is that my life matters, right? My life matters, my daughter's life matters, that we're royalty in real life. Like, hashtag royalty in real life to anybody that is determined, really determined to say that we're more than what's happening right now. The whole situation that I've been dealing with like the family courts and court corruption and all of the government officials, or the lack thereof. I do know that all of that is like serious. It's very serious, but I just feel like that despite all of that, they're very minutia to the bigger picture. Like, my true identity, my greatness, and my royalty, I could sit here and talk and discuss how disgusting they are, how pathetic they are, how I never will ever have any respect for any of them today, tomorrow, and in the future. I will never respect them, at least not the ones that I've had to deal with. I understand that not everybody's the same. We can't put everybody all in just one category and say they're all the same. I mean, I'd be missing out on like an opportunity somewhere. If I took every bad thing that ever happened to me and said that I don't like everybody of that sort, I know that there's good and bad in everything and everybody. So I don't ever just put everybody all in one category and say they're all the same. No, I have the, I have understanding, right? And I have the ability to say that not everybody is that way, right? You can look at me and say not everybody is this way. Not everybody has the mentality of royalty. I could sit here all day and discuss them all day, but I would rather talk about my life, my future, royalty in real life, etc. I do understand that what they are doing and everything that they had pretty much no right and no business in interfering with, that they only played a part. They only played a part, and they will continue to fall apart. They will fall apart in the most miserable way ever. And that's not me wishing death upon them. That's just a fact. And I've said that so many times. I continue to say that because it is literally a matter of time. And time is always of the essence for anybody and everybody. So they were only playing a part, and they only added to what they thought they were taking away from. That's the only way that I can see it. And from what I can see, it's my way. This way is the best way. Okay, the way that they're trying to mislead, and they meaning, I guess I am kind of speaking about like the government, right? But I'm just speaking about like enemies in general. I'm not anti-government at all. I think if we didn't have stop signs, if we didn't have kind of some of the guidelines and regulations, I mean, it would be a mess out there. It would be really, really messy. And people are actually like in line. You know what I mean? A lot of people are in line. And if there wasn't rules and regulations and policies and things of that nature, these people would be out of line. They'd be getting out of line a lot more frequently than they already do. Because right now, people are jumping out of line and out of pocket. They're just out of like, they're out of their own truth, And some folks need to be in line, and some of us need to be speaking to the line or ahead of the line, and some of us are servicing the line. It would be a different world, I think, if there wasn't some kind of governance. But there's obviously a very serious problem happening in the world where there's like overstepping boundaries and things like that, of how much control or power the government has or whatever. But I'm also speaking against the enemy in general, meaning the people that I've had to deal with. And there's a lot of people that are on Hell's enemy list. My list is pretty long. The shit list or the hit list or whatever is pretty long, with a lot of people from everywhere, and they're not all exactly government officials or the lack thereof. I always say government unofficials, right? But they all played a part somehow, in some way, in something that they should have never tried to play with at all. My daughter's paternal family members, people that I've had to deal with in and out of the courts, past situationships, etc. There's a lot of people that just really did wrong. They had intention with the wrong that they were doing. It just doesn't equal this. So it never changed it. You understand? It never changed this because it didn't have the power to do that. Like I said, there's just so minutia to the bigger picture, period. You have to identify as the bigger picture if you want to have any sort of like purpose in your life. And anybody can go to church, they can go to school, they can go get their degrees, do whatever you do that makes you feel like your life is going to be a better, or that you have more, like that you're more than than you were yesterday, that you're better than. I've always pushed myself to try to be more than what I was, or what anybody said that I was, what I ever thought myself to be, right? Like I always am looking into like reading and studying and trying to understand more and just trying to grow, right? And I think as human beings, because that's all anybody is a human being, is to understand that there is infinite potential. Like there's so much potential, and that's exciting. It's exciting to say that I have this potential. I can be more than I was yesterday. I can be more than whoever I think that I am today. Like, there's more than this. Like, what is greater than this? What's greater than me having the royal crown on my head and calling myself a queen? If I were to answer that, it would be the difference that I can make, the changes that I can make, etc. And it can be subtle changes, and it can be like massive changes. And I'm not really asking for too much. I'm not trying to be too much more than myself and the mother that I am. It's very challenging for me to actually ever believe in myself with all of the opposition, all of the challenges that I've endured. Like, and when I say enduring that, it's because I didn't know, right? I didn't know how to. So if I don't understand how to, obviously it's going to be a lot of learning, right? It's going to be a lot of learning. And so that is literally enduring. If I don't have a choice but to kind of be in this situation, etc., that's not a good thing. I don't believe that I was born to endure, to just struggle and die. I believe that I was born to do great things, and I intend to do great things, and that's the plan, right? But it's not my own plan, because let me tell you, I'm somebody that's never been a planner. I've never been able to organize my thoughts, let alone organize my life. And my mental capacity just doesn't allow that. If I were to pull from my childhood trauma, it would be that I don't have a brain and that I am naturally blonde in that sense. that I've never been able to think past the next hour. And that's fine. And life would be so much easier if I didn't have to think, honestly. When I think, I overthink and I think too much. And then I think about this and then I think about, oh, and then all the way, and then suddenly it's like a different time zone. And that's a great thing, actually. If we have a talent or a skill, channeling it correctly, pushing it into the right direction, etc. I mean, we can really work magic. We can really do a lot of wonders, with the right support and the right environment, etc. I refer to the city and state that I grew up in as Haterville. I feel like there was been so many challenges and so many people in the way. It's like I have to go file a petition or a motion to say I want to live now. Can I live my life? And it's like I'm gonna answer that for myself. Royalty in Real Life podcast. This is All Hair the Queen. Tune in and subscribe to me on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and iHeart Radio.